Welcome to Talking Plant Protein. I'm Nicole Astra.
And I'm Joey Thurman. Nicole, let's talk about the story behind our food today.
Yes, this is something we get to learn about every day, but I don't think the average consumer looks at that food and really thinks about where it comes from and what it's made of.
Right, I mean, we always heard the term farm to fork, but when it comes to whole foods like vegetables, we know those should be in our food. But when it's coming to prepared foods, what truly goes into the ingredients and manufacturing of what we buy? Health is important to you, so you should find out.
Benjamin Voiry is the head of marketing pea and new proteins at Roquette, and he talked with us about the consumer wanting to know more about where their food comes from.
Yeah, no, definitely, and there's really this. They want to understand what they are buying in this case. I mean, it's not just to say it's plant-based food, it's plant-based protein. It's not only that. They want to understand what can be the source of the protein. They want to get an understanding on where this protein is coming from. What are the attributes of this protein? So we see that as back to the previous point in terms of cleaner labeling, better products. This is evolving for sure. Let's not forget also that when it's formulated by any food companies, the product has to taste good to get the right texture, and this is keep improving, because every time it is reformulated is also sometimes to achieve this improvement thanks to the new ingredients or thanks to the new technologies. But it's really then never forget that when you buy the food, you buy a story behind, and it's more and more important for the consumers. And if I want to add few other things that matters for the consumers will be related to the healthier image of the product, and what is growing a lot is really related to the sustainability, the impact of buying food that has on the planet, and this is more and more important also in addition to the clean label.
The demand for transparency is growing, and many companies in the plant-based space are doing things the right way from the very beginning. Classic Fine Foods Singapore GM Karen Tay talks about how they partner directly with the source.
Yeah, I think it really boils down to the legacy of the company and how we started. It's always about going straight to the source. Knowing the farmers, the producers, and I would say the company is now 20 years old, and it's probably not possible at this point in time. But when we first started out, we knew every single producer that we're working with, right? We would have visited them. If it's an artisanal farmer, we would have met them, gone to see the production, know their families. And of course, as the company expanded, we started to work also with more multinational companies. And of course, we still visited them and continued to have a very professional relationship. But I think this is really how it started. And of course, we hire people who are passionate about gastronomy. And I think that shows, because for us, we feel proud to represent, people like Dan, because we are an extension of them in the market. So it's important that we represent them well. And that's why also in the selection of partners we work with, that is so important, that we find a mutual fit, so that it could be a mutually beneficial partnership.
So Classic Fine Foods has even been quoted as saying they know when the tomato was picked.
Really?
I know. I just think it really speaks to their commitment to clean food and environmental impact, and they distribute to so many different companies as well.
Right, it's part of a trust factor.
Yes, and you can't always trust the labels, particularly in the U.S. Owner of Victory Nutrition, Beth Penzone, studied abroad for this very reason and explains why the U.S. is behind labeling trends.
So the U.S. is behind in a few different ways. The things, again, that proactiveness versus reactiveness is one of the main things that the U.S. really needs to work on. Because in the UK, and Finland is actually one of the #1 countries that is amazing right now for nutrition and diet, but they have ingredients have to be proven safe to be added into anything. Where here, ingredients have to be proven harmful to be taken out.
Excluded, right.
Where things can be added in and they're innocent until proven guilty. But in other countries, you have to prove that they are healthy and they're not harmful to even add them into your products. So that's a big shift that I think the U.S. needs to make.
Beth touches on an important topic as we talk about processed foods. Of course, everything in moderation, Nicole, but Sometimes, if moderation, you have a cookie, you're going to eat the whole box. You can't have all of that, right?
Right. I could eat one donut, but you could never eat just one donut.
She could, but understanding the ingredients is what's important.
Yeah, our food should be made of food. There are organizations who vet these things for consumers as well. V-Label has been certifying products and manufacturing processes as truly vegan since the 90s, before it was mainstream. Here's their marketing project manager, Jennifer Linares.
It happens as well, for instance, that production lines are oftentimes shared between veg products, vegan or vegetarian, and non-veg products. So that's something, again, that doesn't get to the consumer through labeling or packaging, but it's something that we find out about when we certify the products. And if we talk about something like cosmetics, for instance, it's like mission impossible, really, to read a label, because all the ingredients are so foreign to us. And many of them, it happens with food as well, but even more with cosmetics, many of the ingredients may be critical ingredients that could or could not be of animal or plant-based origin. So the same ingredient could be either animal-based or plant-based. And then with cosmetics, you don't know whether the product has been tested on animals from packaging. So there is a lot of things going on that doesn't get through just from the ingredient list. And this is what the V-Label what the V-Label communicates and reassures customers on when buying products with the V-Label. You have the certainty that the product has been checked in all its not only ingredients but also processing methods, that the products, for instance, in cosmetics, have not been tested on animals. And we actually even check things like that the product does not contain GMOs. So it's much more than checking ingredients.
What surprised me the most about meeting her was I learned that wine is not usually vegan.
Really?
I was disappointed to learn that
What
about
makes
my
it
wine.
non-vegan?
It's the fining process that often uses an animal product. So not the filtration, but in the fining process. So you could look for wines that are unfined, trusted vegan certificates, or of course kosher varieties if animal-free is important to
I thought it was because the person stomping the grapes with their feet.
Feet-free, no.
All right, it's our job to educate ourselves on what is healthy for us and for our planet, but we deserve to make an informed decision, and proper labeling allows us to do so. We spoke to a plant-based gelato maker who already has a deliciously clean label and transparent manufacturing, but it's taking things one step further when it comes to her packaging. Kaylee Donewald is the founder and CEO of Sacred Serve.
When I first started this company was when I first even realized that no ice cream pints are recyclable. And the reason for that, everyone thinks they look like just paperboard, what's the problem? But there's really a plastic lining that goes on the inside as a moisture barrier. And so I was kind of distraught to learn that when I first started, and thought, here I'm making this really good for the body, good for the earth product. How can I put it in something that is, hurtful to the environment? So we originally launched with what kind of looks like a takeout box, kind of fold top on the top, but really that reduces the amount of material needed. So it was a slightly more sustainable option. And then as of just last month, we were able to finally upgrade and launch really the first ever 100% plastic-free version of an ice cream carton. So now they are fully recyclable, compostable, and biodegradable as well.
Yum. See, now that's a purchase that I can get behind. When I can make a purchase that I know the money stays local, or it's not going to have a big impact on the environment, it tastes better when it feels better.
It was delicious too. I took several boxes.
Some taste tests, that's right.
Now, you guys hear me talk about everyday choices making a big impact. The power of choice has a lot of power. The food system always responds to the way consumers spend money. Food activist Mark Coloma heads up my favorite word to say, Heura Foods, and there we go, and has a great call to action for all of us.
Well, at the core of Heura, there is this belief of we have much more power than we think, and people can have the ability to change the world. So when we were born, and when Heura was born, we knew that we were part of a movement much bigger than ourselves. And in order to add value to this movement, we wanted to do two things: food tech solutions, so solutions to the current model, but also bring awareness. with this concept of vote with your fork. From 3 to 5 times a day, we have the ability, to vote with our fork for the world that we want. And this was something that was core from the beginning of the company.
I love Marc. I love his energy. The Heura team is really changing things in Barcelona. So it's a great reminder for all of us. Thanks, Marc.
Yep, vote with your fork. I'm Joey Thurman for Talking Plant Protein.
And I'm Nicole Astra. We'll see you next week.